and gentlemen, it's 12 o'clock. Let's go ahead and begin our program. I'm going to ask my panelists to come on up. While they're coming on up, I want to cover a few things. Number one, I want to thank our sponsors. I'm Brian Duvall, Director of the Chamber of Commerce, and we couldn't do these kinds of events without the generous support of our sponsors, like our visionary sponsors and event sponsors. You can see them listed up here on the banners. If you see them, make sure that you thank them for their generous support as well. They like to hear from the chamber members. Yep, definitely. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of feedback. There we go. Can somebody turn that? There we go. How's that? Can you still hear me? Is that good? Okay. Let me take care of a couple of items as well. Before I forget, I also want to thank the hotel, the Marcus Whitman Hotel. They're taking good care of us. Compliments to the chefs. So thank you. Appreciate all your support. And also, big special thanks to the staff at the Chamber for organizing these things. I would not be able to do my job if it weren't for knowledgeable, professional staff who know what the heck's going on. All right. So, thank you. All right. So the basic intent of today's program is to share directly from the leaders of four key organizations: the Chamber, the Downtown Foundation, Visit Walla Walla, and the Wine Alliance. So, because when I first arrived here, I heard from a number of different people that there were some preconceived notions or perhaps some misconceptions about what the organizations do, that there may be a bunch of overlap, maybe some duplication of services. So I wanted to address some of those kinds of ideas, clarify what we do and how we do it, and showcase how we collaborate and support one another, because as the saying goes, the things we do best we do together. So I'd like to recognize my panel of esteemed colleagues. We have Ron Williams. He's the director of Visit Walla Walla. We have Bonnie Boughton. She's the director of the Walla Walla Downtown Foundation. And we have Heather Unwin, director of the Walla Walla Wine Alliance. So, yes. Look forward to hearing from them. Since I'm first up, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my presentation. Since we don't have an official PowerPoint, I was up till midnight last night trying to find something that wouldn't bore you to tears, but in just 4 or 5 slides, kind of condense the direction that the Chamber's going and what we do. And so I tried to find some representative photos from the previous events that we've done. This is my illustrious Chamber staff. We're really lucky to have them. Marissa is head of our communications at the Chamber of Commerce. She's responsible for the emails that you get, the graphics, and the newsletter, the monthly newsletter publications, and all the communications that come out of the Chamber of Commerce. Could not communicate and keep abreast of what's going on without her effort. She's also the memory of the Chamber, because most of our staff are fairly new. And if it weren't for Marissa, we wouldn't necessarily have the background and the historical record to rely on if it weren't for her. Steve is head of our membership. So he's our membership director. He's responsible for developing relationships and membership development. He's also primarily responsible for sponsorship sales. So thank you, Steve, for all that you do. He is now head of our ambassador corps. So I feel like maybe we've abused our poor ambassadors in the previous years. They've been responsible for setup and takedown and showing up at everything and ribbon cuttings, and I don't want to wear them out. So our new direction is that we're encouraging the ambassadors to go ahead and keep volunteering if that's what you like and you're getting value out of that, but really the main focus of ambassadors is to develop relationships in the business community and make sure that the members are happy and satisfied with the services they're getting and that the Chamber's doing its job. Kelly is our events director. She's the one who coordinates events like this, the business summit, the golf tournament, and the annual banquet and the business award showcase. She has her hands full. She handles all the logistics and scheduling and taking care of quite a lot. So there's a big burden on her shoulders as well. And then Tanya, who is on a bus coming back from China right now with 73 other folks, but she is our office manager, handles our books, and so on. And so all of us together take care of walk-ins and visitor requests and general requests for information. So that's the people of business at the Chamber of Commerce. My job as director, membership development, sponsorship sales, and pretty much all of the above, but primarily it's going to be focused on the new direction and something called public policy, which I'm learning a lot about the way the state of Washington and the state of Oregon handles public policy. And also thank you to our representatives who are here today. Thank you for coming out. But having run 2 chambers of commerce previously and have been involved in as director of public relations and communications with state trade associations in the credit union industry in the state of Virginia, we spent a lot of time on public policy at a federal and state level. Things are a little bit different on the West Coast. I'm getting up to speed thanks to everybody's support on that. So there we go. One of the things the Chamber's known for is being the fun of business. We do networking events like this. You get to have wonderful meals with your colleagues and hopeful prospects, potential business leaders, perhaps even some future employees. We do a lot of networking events like business after hours. If you missed the one over at the hotel right downtown, they gave away 18 vacation packages. Make sure you turn out. Show up early because I understand that the Marcus Whitman is doing one in September. It's their 90th anniversary, and it's going to be a big gala event. We've got these going every month, and we're booked a year in advance. So make sure you turn out for these networking events. The business after hours are wonderful opportunities. So business should be fun. We try to make it fun and encourage participation. But let's get down to more of the serious side of what the Chamber does. The strength of business. We are only as strong as our membership, and we're only as strong as our ability to work together toward a common goal. Now, one of the areas that I'm particularly excited to be involved in is small business development as it involves economic development here in the community. Based on a lot of conversations and working with the port and the city of College Place and the city of Walla Walla and other organizations, the Chamber's role is evolving from just membership and tourism and basic public policy, but we're going to have a much more hands-on approach to actual business development initiatives and entrepreneurship. So we're partnering with the public school systems like College Place and CTEC and WAHI and so on, as well as the college systems, to develop and support entrepreneurship so that kids and young people understand that there's more than just 2 options: leave Walla Walla to get a career, or go to college and then leave Walla Walla. Our youth seems to be one of our major exports. We want to encourage a third option, and that is, let's solve some problems right here in our community that can be turned into businesses and support the industries that are here. So there's some exciting things going on. We're excited to be having a leadership role in that. Another key area is that we're the voice of business. Now, I mentioned public policy. This is a primary role for the Chamber of Commerce. We partner with other chambers on this side of the state, but we're also members of the Association of Washington Businesses. We participate with the Seattle Chamber of Commerce. As you know, high density of population over on the western side of the state tends to wag the dog when it comes to policy and how it impacts business on this side of the state. And it's only by getting our employees and our businesses well organized and vocal can we hope to have a chance of influencing policy that can protect businesses and not crush us under the weight of overtaxing and burdensome regulation. So we're excited to be involved in that as well. And we're the spirit of business. This is where the entrepreneurship, supporting entrepreneurship. I've had a pleasure of meeting a young entrepreneur in the area. His name's Keith Nurdin with Ember Fuel. And as well as Heidi over at the College Place High School, and like I mentioned, some of the other schools, and what they're doing to spark entrepreneurship, to light that flame, that spirit of the entrepreneurial ideal in the Walla Walla area. We have a really unique opportunity in this community to grow small businesses so that over time they can add a few employees. The advantage is they already live here. And one of the big challenges that we face is the high cost of housing and the limited housing supply. So that's one of the challenges. How do we address that? Grow local businesses with young people already live here. You can help eliminate some of that. But we're also uniquely positioned because we have 3 universities and we have amazing school systems. So we've got a high density of talent and young, very capable people graduating from these institutions. So we have a future brain bank, if you will, that we can tap into and support. But we're also in close proximity to cities like Seattle and Portland, which means that as these new ideas grow, if the resources, the employee power that we need isn't immediately available here, we're close enough that we can draw them, some of that talent to this area, following the business model and the idea of Ingenix, who was a Seattle-based business and hated losing employees to competitors in the marketplace, folks looking for a higher quality of life, getting out of the rat race, and still being able to do their career. So we're uniquely positioned. I'm excited about how we can continue to be the spirit of business. So that's it for the Chamber of Commerce. Let me set up the next slideshow. Ron's going to come up and tell you a little bit more about what he does. And then once we're done with our short presentations, we will take questions specifically about how we're working together and so on. So let me get that set. There we go. And yours is right there. Slideshow from the beginning. There you go. Just hit the space bar.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ron Williams. I think I know most of you in the room. Brian, thank you for the opportunity to be up here with all of you. It's been such a great pleasure to get to know my colleagues up here at this table, Heather and Bonnie and Brian and myself. You know, we're all new to our jobs here. Some of us are new to the career even. And to put it in perspective, I've been in my position for 16 months, and I've been here the longest of all the 4 of us in our new positions. So it's a whole new slate and a whole new group of people, and we approach our jobs very differently, I think, than all of our predecessors. Not that any of them were doing something incorrect, but just that we're new people with new ideas. And so it's been very exciting to get to know their organizations and their new organizations and to have a chance to work with them collaboratively, which I believe is kind of the key word for all of us. We recognize that collaboration is the way that we get things done without repeating ourselves, without duplicating services, and hopefully as efficiently and cost effectively as possible. So I guess it's fair to say that we are here to serve all of you in various capacities, and sometimes we do it together and sometimes we do it separately as various projects come to the fore. All 4 of us are certainly involved and concerned with driving the economy of Walla Walla. That's what it's all about for us, and in various ways, all trying to reach that same goal. So my sector is tourism, and the reach of our organization is perhaps a little bit broader on the page, but really no less broad than any of these organizations up here in terms of really the reach and the importance. So Visit Walla Walla encompasses the entire valley, and by that I mean the whole Walla Walla Valley and even to say the Palouse. So our job is to work first and foremost by carrying the Walla Walla brand, who we are as a destination, outside the region. So a lot of what we do is behind the scenes and not something that you see. We're working outside of Walla Walla, and that takes a number of forms.
Hit the space bar.
Oh, space bar. It's like I've never done this before. Advertising, this is kind of a traditional mechanism. This is the glossy print ad in a publication. And in 2017, we launched a new ad campaign, which we call Walla Walla Inside and Out. So we're looking at the Valley introspectively and outward facing, and it gives us a lot of freedom to cover a lot of topics. And rather than kind of, what do I want to say, glossy advertising that looks staged, we're trying to use very natural, native, organic-looking photographs, or a combination of the two, and to feature as many of the services and amenities that Walla Walla has to offer as we can. That means that we talk about wine, of course, because that is key to the Walla Walla brand. We know that it's one of the #1 things that brings people to our valley for the purposes of leisure travel. But we are trying to get people to think about wine in conjunction with other activities. So we launched what I call internally on the page, not that we talk about this in our advertising, but something we're calling in-house Wine Plus. And in 2017, we're looking at how we can expand the conversation to get a greater number of people to come and to stay longer. So we talk about promoting sports and outdoor recreation, discovering history and heritage, the fine and performing arts, and lastly, targeting the LGBTQ community. And I'm going to dwell on that one for just a moment because sometimes it raises eyebrows. Two reasons for this, and this was a decision that the board supported as we were looking at different methods. First of all, any destination marketing organization, any organization in tourism around the world that isn't specifically targeting the LGBT community is missing out because it's one of the most affluent and free-to-travel communities in the world. So it's an obvious choice. Secondly, our predominant market in Walla Walla is Seattle. That's the most of our visitors are still coming from Seattle, and the LGBT community there is very strong and very influential. So we decided to take on the fact that if we can attract that community to Walla Walla and convince them that Eastern Washington is as warm and as inclusive and as welcoming as we in this room know it to be, they're going to carry that message back to Seattle, and it's just going to create influence in an entire marketplace. And so that was the reason we chose that particular market for now in this initial kind of foray into advertising and marketing on the east side, west side. We're on the east side. I want to chat just a second about who that market is, and I think Heather can also probably touch on this. In 2016, this is a statistic I keep repeating because it just amazes me. In 2016, millennials surpassed baby boomers in their spending on travel. So all of a sudden, everything we've been doing for the last 20, 30 years in terms of reaching out to people, everything we knew to do is not necessarily the same things we want to do with this younger generation. We approach them differently, we market to them differently, we target them differently. Everybody kind of wants the same experience, right? Everybody comes to Walla Walla because they want something authentic, they want connection, they want to spend time with family and friends, but how we reach them is a little different. So it's a lot more hands-on, a lot more face-to-face in terms of getting out into the marketplace, but really moving a little bit away from the traditional print advertising, and we're getting into a lot of digital work. So a big part of our focus now is in targeting people through digital campaigns, and we can do that very effectively. One of our other key initiatives is to get the word out in person. So we'll probably go to 20, 25 trade and consumer shows in the coming year. We'll be all over the place, golf shows, travel shows, meeting planner shows, culinary, wine, all over the place, carrying that message. So when we're doing this, here's the message to all of you. We're representing you and your product and your services. So if you've got anything that we should know about that is going to be appealing to anybody outside the Walla Walla market, you want to make sure that we know about it so that we can carry that message with us. Lastly, it's about telling stories. So as we move out of, again, this sort of pretty composed print advertising, we're getting into a lot more storytelling, and we can do this through our website, but we also do it in print and in digital. So we talk about all the different amenities that we have in Walla Walla. Again, it allows us to be inclusive of these other areas of interest. always with the idea that we want to get people to come to the Valley, to spend more time here, to bring their families, to come back frequently, and to explore all that we have to offer. And again, as I say the Valley, I mean the entire Valley, from Dayton, Waitsburg, Walla Walla, Prescott, you name it. And then we reach even outside this area to encompass the entirety of Eastern Washington. Just going to close with a little sort of a preview of how we spend our time. I talk about the trade shows and those sort of things. I'm going to be leaving on the 31st, and I'll be gone for 2 weeks. And I'll just give you my itinerary so you kind of get an understanding of the scope of what we're working on. I'll leave for New York, and I'm going to spend 3 days in New York meeting with journalists. And so I've got appointments with Wine Enthusiast, Condé Nast, Martha Stewart Living, and then a number of what we call influencers, bloggers, writers of that sort. 3 days in New York, and then I take off for London, and I'll be in London for a week where I get to attend the World Travel Market, which brings together about 10,000 organizers, travel planners from all over the world, predominantly based in the UK, who plan excursions. I've been invited by Visit Seattle and the Port of Seattle to be the representative for Southeastern Washington wine country. So as part of that process, I get to host a wine reception where, of course, we'll be pouring only Walla Walla wine. After London, I zip back to California. I'll be in Santa Rosa, where I'll be attending the last day of the Wine and Travel Bloggers Conference. Does anybody remember that from 2010? We hosted it here in Walla Walla. It hasn't been back to Washington since it was here in 2010, so in collaboration with our colleagues here, we will be hosting the 2018 Bloggers Conference. That'll bring in between 250 and 300 writers who will be covering the Valley from various points of view, predominantly wine and culinary, but we'll get them out to experience as much as we can. So I've been invited to go there to announce that we'll be hosting the 2018 conference. Back to Seattle, I'll be attending the board meeting for the Washington Tourism Alliance, where I represent Southeastern Washington. And the Washington Tourism Alliance is the organization that is trying to get the state of Washington to create a statewide initiative. We're the only state in the 50 in the union that does not have a state tourism office. So where our surrounding states are spending collectively about $60 million to attract tourists to their state, we spend nothing. So I'm on that board and representing Southeastern Washington, so I've had the pleasure of speaking with our legislators and will be working with them to urge the rest of the legislature to vote in favor of funding this, which should happen in 2018. That's my time, and I'll leave it to the rest of you. Thank you very much. Did I trip you? Sorry.
I'm sure it was an accident.
There you go.
Oh,
I'm afraid it's
we're
going to
gonna-
go to a slideshow.
oh, okay. Just,
Let me close that.
all right. Hello, I'm Bonnie Boaten, Executive Director of the Downtown Walla Walla Foundation. I do not have a PowerPoint for you today, I'm sorry. Ours was a little outdated. We're working on a new one as we are working on some new things at the downtown. So rather than give you something that was outdated, I decided to just wing it, and you can look forward to our new presentation at our membership meeting and our annual meeting coming up soon. I started in March of this year as the executive director of the Downtown Walla Walla Foundation. I know many of you in the room, and you know my background was banking. I moved here, and I will tell you honestly, pretty much kicking and screaming, making sure that I was going to only be in Walla Walla for 3 to 5 years max. That was in 1981. I fell in love with Walla Walla, and my banking career afforded me the opportunity to ingrain myself in Walla Walla through a lot of different volunteer works, and during that time I found that to be very rewarding. So I had planned to retire from banking in March of next year, but when the opportunity for the executive director for Downtown Walla Walla came, I all of a sudden had this epiphany that I finally knew what I wanted to do when I grew up, and that was be an executive director of a nonprofit. So here I am. I heard that. The downtown Walla Walla Foundation, I'm going to move this down, was founded in 1985, and our mission is promoting the history, culture, and commerce of the downtown area. We are a 501c3, funded by membership, B&O tax, LTAC, and sponsorships. We are part of the state Main Street organization, which now has 37 main streets in the state of Washington. And we follow the 4-point mission of Main Streets, which is organization, economic vitality, design, and promotion. We also are affiliated with the National Main Street organization also. Vital to any economy is preserving a downtown that is inviting and welcoming to not only the people that live here, but also the tourists that help our town thrive. We do such events as Feast Walla Walla in April, Farmers Market, which we run that through May through October, every Saturday. I hope some of you have been to the farmers market. It was recognized at our state conference earlier this year as one of the best farmers markets in the state of Washington, so we were very proud of that Economic Development Award. We also do the Summer Sounds concerts, June through August, through September, and we did that every Friday and Saturday from 5:30 to 7:30 in the Land Titles Plaza. And it was a great event sponsored with Brown Family Vineyards and Plum Cellars. And it was very well received by everybody. It was something that had been done before, kind of changed different venues, and we brought it back. And our sponsors are already secured again for next year for that series, and we will be doing it again next year. So I hope you'll come down. It really is fun. Just to sit outside and listen to some great music, and we try to get a wide variety of local musicians to entertain everybody that comes down to listen. New this year, we started something called Sip and Stroll. It was actually brought to us by one of our downtown merchants. And one Thursday a month, we held the event. The businesses that participated in our downtown area, retailers, restaurants, the wine tasting rooms, all agreed to stay open until 8 o'clock. And they did specials, and we sold tickets, and people came down and got their passports stamped and took advantage of some specials that each one of those merchants were doing. And that also turned out to be very fun, and we will be doing that one again next year also. This year, we also took over the Onion Festival. As many of you know, we had the Onion Committee here for a lot of years, and Kathy Fry ran that event, and she retired, and the committee moved to a group actually in Tri-Cities. She didn't want the Onion Festival to go under, so she asked us if we would partner. We did that this year, and we will be taking that event over also. Luckily, we also had the Seahawk Fan Van show up that particular day, which made it a really big event. I wish we could take credit for that, but they found us as opposed to us reaching out to them. So, Wheelin' Weekend, another great event that the Downtown Foundation does, and we just got past that one. It is always the second weekend in September. We had almost 400 classic and historic cars in our downtown, and it was our 21st year of doing that event. And so that is one that everybody looks forward to every year, especially if you're a car enthusiast. Next week on Tuesday, we will be doing the downtown trick-or-treat. There will be about 3,000 little goblins running around Main and Alder. So be careful. It's between 3 and 5, so you may, if you're not bringing children down, want to stay away from the downtown area because it will be packed with all kinds of critters you can imagine. And there will be games on alders for the kids. There'll be a photo booth, a lot of fun things for them to do. And all the merchants participating by giving them buckets of candy. Also, on November 11th, we do the Veterans Day Parade every year, and that will be honoring our veterans, and it's going to be a really great event this year also. And we do the Parade of Lights the first Saturday in December, and we have already for that, I think about 25 people registered already to take part in that. And if you've never participated in that or watched that, it's a really beautiful event because it's done at night and it's all lit up. It's very pretty. We also have a Christmas concert coming up that will be at the Powerhouse Theater with Gary Hemingway, and Dr. Mark Brown will be doing that again for us this year, and that's a very fun event also with all the musicians and get you into the Christmas spirit. We also produce the Wine and Dine Guide, which is your map to downtown activities as far as restaurants, shopping, and the tasting rooms. It's probably the most used guide in Walla Walla for the downtown area. The committees that we have are the Historic Preservation, Economic Development, Promotions, and Membership. And with me at the Downtown Foundation, I have a staff of 2, which is Cindy Frost is our Events and Promotion Manager, and Shane Leib, who is in charge of the farmers market and also membership. We do have a contracted bookkeeper that comes in 1 day a week to help us out a little bit. Up until recently, we were also the fiscal, overseer of the Small Business Development Center. The Downtown Walla Walla Foundation brought the Small Business Development Center back to Walla Walla 6 years ago. And I'm proud to say that our partnership with Brian and the Chamber, they will be taking over that function and be the new fiscal agent. And there'll be some changes that I'm sure Brian will tell you about. We do have a board of directors made up of a lot of business owners, merchants, professionals in the area. I won't go into naming all of them, but we couldn't do what we do without our board of directors, who all of them are on different committees and do a lot of volunteer work for us also on the different events that we do. We currently are working on a very exciting project. It's going to take a while, but in a revamp of utilizing Heritage Square in a different way, and we are partnering with the city to do that. The committee the design committee is working on that with the city, and we will be sending out an RFQ shortly to get some bids for some redesign work. It will take some time, but I think it's going to be a great public utilization of a space that can be used for a lot of different things and much needed in our downtown area. We are also in the process of redesigning the membership and implementing merchant meetings of value to our merchants and downtown business owners and property owners. And we also work very closely with the city as a liaison between the downtown merchants and the city, getting the word out for changes and things that are happening. And, of course, we partner with the Chamber, the Wine Alliance, and Visit Walla Walla. The collaboration between the 4 of us has been wonderful and amazing, and we help each other where we can, sometimes even if it's just for support when you're about to pull your hair out. And other times we could do this part for you, or we can help you with that part. And the team that I feel that we have put together has been very supportive and collaborative, and we regularly meet and have lunch and just go over a lot of different areas where we can partner and help and where we need to stay out of the way sometimes. Last but not least, keeping the downtown vibrant, interesting, and inviting to both the people that live here and the tourists is extremely important in making our downtown what it is. I can tell you in going to the state conferences, when I say Walla Walla, everybody gets very excited and said, oh, I love Walla Walla. And I'm always very proud to say that I'm the executive director of the Downtown Walla Walla Foundation. Thank you all so much for being here and for listening.
Next up is Heather. Let's see if we can get her presentation pulled up here real quick. Okay. Yeah, get that pulled up here in a second.
That's Brian.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There we go. And yours is right here. There we go. From the beginning. Okay, remember, just hit the space bar.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed. They told me that we were doing a musical version of this presentation, and then they chickened out. So, the dancing, everything.
I'm ready.
Thank you so much for being here. And you can't help but feel so incredibly proud of this community that you've got folks that are so passionate and so excited to do this work. This is a really neat community to come into. So I've been here since January. As many of you know, I've been able to chat with many of you. I have been in the wine industry since about 2006. I have been doing marketing, mostly in tech, since about, I think, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. In my time working in the wine industry, I have revealed myself to be a total geek, probably because I trained as a scientist back when dinosaurs were still in their eggs. So with wine, when I got into the industry, one of the things we talk a lot about in Washington State, and specifically here in Walla Walla, is we make world-class wines. Well, you're not allowed to talk about world-class wines if you don't actually know what world-class wines taste like, what markets in other parts of the world like about wine, what they expect. Otherwise, you're just saying words, and that's not really fair when people are really creating a truly beautiful product. So here in Walla Walla Valley, one of the things that I like to start out reminding people, because there's so many things that go on and there's so many things that we think we know about the wine industry, is to kind of start out with people and remind people, what do we, and I'm going to include Ashley Riggs in the back, our marketing and PR manager, what do we get paid to do? What do people choose to say we get a salary to do? So we have a board, and I'll introduce them in a moment, but our board basically has given us a mission. And I've highlighted some things for a very specific reason. We're to develop an internationally acclaimed Walla Walla Valley wine brand with consumers, media, and trade. Trade are people who buy wine for restaurants, for grocery stores, for resorts, exporters, by providing marketing programs on behalf of member wineries, vineyards, and partners. And so sometimes when we're looking at all these different organizations and wondering how do we work together and what space do we occupy, sometimes when you look at marketing programs, quite often that's where you'll see overlap and opportunities for collaboration. And I think with all of my colleagues here today, that opportunity for collaboration is probably the single most exciting potential that this whole community has going forward. We're an industry, a membership industry organization. So it sets us, it's probably why I get to sit at the end of the table. So we actually represent an entire industry. And for those of you, and I think in Walla Walla, folks are pretty sophisticated about what the wine industry actually means, but we actually touch on a broad range of areas that as an organization we need to be aware of, to work with, to follow trends on, and look for problems and challenges. So for example, we certainly cover agriculture. Manufacturing. A lot of folks don't know that wineries are actually classed as manufacturing businesses. Retail. Tasting rooms here, but also e-commerce. This is huge. Wine clubs. All of those kinds of components of the wine industry provide real income into our businesses. Wholesale. Once again, when we talk about trade, when we're selling our wine, we're very fortunate. We can sell directly to you when you come into the tasting room or when you go online. But trade are the folks that actually can buy our wine in bulk. They can be sending it to different states. We go to Texas, we go to New York, we go to Japan, we go to London. But trade is a big component to that. The way that trade works and the way that we interact with them and communicate with them, I'll tell you a hint, they love to come to Walla Walla because when they're out selling what they've bought wholesale to their customers, they tell the story of walking down Main Street, of going for a wonderful meal, of hanging out and meeting people and saying what a genuine community this is. This community is actually a tool to move global commerce. Transportation logistics doesn't sound very exciting, but I'm telling you, UPS, FedEx, Rail-X, these are all people that are intensely important to how we actually do our jobs. Packaging, bottles, corks, the barrels that we use. This is another part of our industry that we really need to be in charge of understanding what they need from us, how we work with them. They become very active community members. And I'll just give you a little hint. I'm going off topic here. The Wine Alliance works with BMAC to do this amazing auction called Barrel Full of Money in December that raises funds directly to feed people in Walla Walla Valley. One of our members, Philippe Michel, worked with a French barrel company called Sigue-Moreau. Sigue-Moreau sell the oak barrels that our winemakers buy in bulk to age their wines. Sigue-Moreau is now a partner in raising funds for Barrel Full of Money just for this community. Because we're an industry organization. It is. Thank you for saying that. It is a real endorsement. They see that business in France, and also they're also based in Napa. They see that their future is in supporting the well-being of everyone in this community. We are also involved in hospitality. And so sometimes there gets to be some confusion here, drives me and Ron nuts on a daily basis about tourism. And so I want to basically just talk on tourism a little bit about why, for the Wine Alliance, why does tourism kind of run up into the things that we talk about a lot? So tourism for the wine industry is basically, it's travel related to the appeal of the wineries and wine country, but is for us, it's a form of niche marketing that's an opportunity for direct sales and marketing. So when we talk about our, like what I get paid for, and we're looking at retail sales, wine tourism is a very specific group of people. They don't necessarily come here because there's no wine. They do tend to have more money. They are expecting to be spoken to in a certain way. They're expecting certain kinds of experiences. But what's really critically important is that everybody else wants our tourists. And so we work really, really hard to really understand, not even so much from a demographic perspective. I don't actually care how old you are. I do care, do you have enough disposable income to buy the wines that our winemakers are making? So our tourists, they can go to Leavenworth, they can go to Vancouver, they can go to Chile, they can go, believe it or not, they can go to Vietnam. All over the world, people want our wine tourists simply because they bring so much additional economic value to a community. So just to sort of clarify why that matters and why it's so important that these relationships are really, really well developed and that we're really clear on why we do what we do. Our board of directors, you'll recognize a lot of the wineries that are here. But something I want to point out about the wine industry is that you'll notice that we have a few board members that are, for example, Jason Minyagi with Figgins Family. That's a grower seat on our boards. That is where the agriculture, labor, who's buying land, who's coming into Walla Walla Valley buying land, new projects that are going in. That's where we are all listening and learning and understanding where the potentials is. You'll see Tim Donahue. Tim's the, and I hope you all, if everyone here doesn't know Tim Donahue, I will personally introduce you because he's so cool. He runs the viticulture and enology program at the community college that you have here. I recently met this year's intake. They cover the whole country. The age span in students in that program is probably about 50 years. So we've got kids in their 20s, and we've got a gentleman in his 70s who's owned a vineyard down in Oregon for years and years and years, and now has decided he wants to come and learn more about his farming practices. But it's important for us to understand the education, for the college to know what the needs are from the industry, and from the industry to understand what do the students need. Because those students, when they go out and they do internships, they're doing them at LaColle, they're doing them at Dunham, they're doing them with Leonetti. It is a phenomenal opportunity for a student to be working with some of the best wineries in the country. You don't get that just anywhere. There's also, you'll see down at the bottom, we get the little print. The staff, we work on behalf of the board. I basically come in there. I work with Ashley, and it's pretty much the two of us. And I'll show you some of the events that we do. We have an open head count for a events coordinator. And then this year, Whitman College graced us with a fellow, a really, really cool young woman named Yarden Blaustrup, who is working on creating database so that we can do better in-house analysis on how our vineyards are operating and what they're growing, how they're growing, types of grapes, types of farming practices. That's important when Ashley, as PR, is getting calls in from newspapers, asking questions about what's happening here. We can sell more stories because we just know our stuff better. These are the audiences that they basically tell us to work with. And once again, when we look at overlap with our community partners, I think you can see wine, travel, lifestyle, media, there's definitely an overlap with that. Ron's had groups in. He'll call us. He'll call Ashley, say, come on over. We've had a group come in. Ron very graciously came and spoke for a group that we brought in for a new program called Wander that we did with LTAC funds from the city. So we do find ways to overlap on those audiences. Also, the second group, Walla Walla Valley. The Walla Walla Valley are the most marvelous ambassadors for this industry. And you'll actually see a kind of tourism that comes with what's called friends and family tourism. And it's kind of hard because it's a little bit hard to track, but you all, every time you have a college roommate or your in-laws come to visit and you take them around the wineries, you are automatically going and creating more of those ambassadors. But those are groups of folks that we work to create different vehicles to help communicate with those folks. These are the marketing objectives, very briefly: wholesale, retail, and raise awareness. I'm going to go through this part really fast. A lot of our programming is events. We do a tremendous number of events, and I'll hit a slide in a moment that will show you all the events that we do. We do have a local contractor, Sharon Martin, who will come in and assist us with the 2 wine out events. The wine out events, it's trade, it's media. The one we did in Portland last year, if I could have kept selling tickets, if the fire marshal hadn't told me no, we had people standing outside that event buying the tickets from people who were walking out because we were sold out. This is our way of bringing our winemakers out into areas where they can meet new trade and where people can learn more about Walla Walla Valley. Many of you are familiar with Celebrate, 600 people, 24 states, folks from Canada and Australia come for that. I really hope to see all of you there next year. We're doing it in June. It's on Merlot. It's going to be amazing. And then Wander. Wander is a project that we're started. This is not actually an event. It's a campaign. It's something where we went to our winemakers and said, tell us what you do here on a weekend. And they're very intensely personal. They're unique. No one will ever have them. They only exist for a weekend, and we have them running through December. The goal of those is to start bringing people in when the weather goes south, and we are doing all the marketing for that is almost entirely PR and social media purchases. And we're doing the social media to really track psychographically what are behaviors that indicate to us that we're bringing people here that have a good amount of money, disposable income that they can spend here. Finally, we have website, media, the wine guide that we all do. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the wine guide. I've got them outside. We do 50,000 of these a year. As of July, we had done an audit. We had already sent out 35,000. They send them out at visit. They have them at the kiosk. Our partner members all through town, hotels, restaurants, hand them out. We did a mailer along with Edible Seattle, so it went to Ashley, Portland and Seattle. And then we distribute as when we're doing events. Taste Washington this year put them in their bag. They went out to thousands of people at an event that Taste Washington did. So this is what we do. These are the events that we do. Some of them are for our members specifically. We will do things in vineyard. We do harvest parties. But this is the amount of programming that we do in our year to reach our goals of working on wholesale and retail sales and awareness. We also keep track of, as I said before, vineyards, and we do have a Whitman fellow in right now working on that to help us develop something so that we have in-house database so that we can query that based on different press inquiries that are coming in, and also so our industry understands. Because we're coming to the end, and I know that Brian has indicated that there's an opportunity for question and answer, I won't go too far into this. except to tell you that the economic impact study, I was at a meeting this morning, that with our community partners, the city, the port, Visit, we are reestablishing the next generation of economic impact study so that we can really understand this industry, what value we're bringing in, but also what the needs are, what people are coming in. And so we actually have some proper metrics that we can share. And I'm going to run through those just because those are things that'll keep me yakking too long. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you all, and I really thank Brian for putting us all together today.
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me? I'd like to open this up for questions. So you've got a brief overview of what our organizations are doing and how we're working together. So let's hear from you. What are your questions or concerns? Who wants to go first? Yes, go ahead.
Is there a way to measure how deep the dollars are spent? So I know we measure tourism, we measure beyond wineries and hotels and restaurants. Is there a way to measure if it's going into retail stores that sell clothing or custom goods?
That is I'm starting. It's just easier for me to yell. So I was at this meeting I was at this morning. We were looking at the draft questionnaire, and absolutely, in fact, afterwards, if you want, I can give you a show of what it might look like. But we are absolutely looking at all of the different places, transportation, did you take an Uber? But yeah, because we really are trying to form a really comprehensive picture of when someone comes into the community, you know, there are so many different places. You're going to buy gas. Where's that money going? And so if you have an interest, I can show you at the draft. And if you've got any other ideas, let me know, and I'll take it back to the team.
I would just add to that one way to think about dollars that we look at wine trade coming into the valley, tourism, the dollars that come in from outside the community have the same impact as if we were exporting something. It's new money. Right? It's not circulating money through our money through the community, which obviously is an important economic driver, but it's an infusion of new cash. So it tends to go all the way down the chain. So think about $1 spent on a bottle of wine. That family is a local family. They're going to use that money to feed their family, to buy clothing, to send their kids to school, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it penetrates all the way down.
Good question. Next. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I've had some concerns about some of the bed and breakfast or Airbnb, some of the controversy with that, and I just kind of thought that that's something that we should be very cognizant about, making sure that our residents don't feel overly burdened sometimes by this industry. I tend to agree with Ron. I was having this discussion with him earlier today, and I think he's right. Maybe it's going to blown out of proportion, but maybe then it's important that the tourism industry pay attention to some of the ordinances and things that may potentially happen in government that might limit those abilities to do that. And I think the more we work with people as opposed to feeling like it's us against them, it always works better that way. So
Right.
That's just one of my concerns, is to make sure that our locals, who sometimes do express some concern about wine being the big driver here, and you know, where have our family values gone? We've certainly made it a little better with the swimming pool and things like that for families, and I think that's really important too, that we extol many of the family activities available here, our Walla Walla Museum, and just lots of other things that are available to families, you know, that don't necessarily include wine, although I certainly advocate on behalf of the wine too.
Right.
Well,
Right.
and you know, and to be fair, and I think that's a really interesting point, because speaking as someone who's been trying to buy a house here since January, so I hear you, our industry live here. There are a lot of wine areas where I can promise you get a lot of absentee wineries. Our members, I mean, you know, I can look at Debbie sitting here. We live here. We send our kids to school here. We go to doctors here. So I think, you know, the interesting thing with VRBOs and stuff like that, that is not unique to this community. Every single community that has any sort of tourism at all, everybody's dealing with this right now. And it's really less to do with the wine industry and more to do with how our economy is changing when these disruptive businesses come into a community. At what point does a community look at a disruptive business and say, we think it's a good thing, maybe it's not a good thing, but But you are absolutely right. But we need to sit down and look at those folks, because we actually had a gentleman come in yesterday who lives here locally, who also owns 2 VRBO homes locally. So he's a local resident who started a business owning homes that do VRBO. So it's really complicated, and we're not alone in dealing with this. So I think you're absolutely right.
Right. Complicated issue. Yes, go ahead.
My name's Alexa Palmer. I own Walla Walla Vacation Rentals. I apparently am the evil empire. Sorry. Not sorry. Our Walla Walla City Council, in their infinite wisdom, is going to vote on November 1st whether to, and on the table, believe it or not, blows my mind, is whether to ban vacation rental homes in Walla Walla or overregulate them to the point where they have to go bye-bye. I'd like to know your opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we live in a tourist town, right? Right?
Yeah.
Partly, yes.
Yeah. But we also live in a town where folks live and like to enjoy a quality of life. But at the risk of sounding like an alarmist, if they ban this industry, if you will, we're all going to be out of jobs.
So if I might address this, I think I've probably been at most of the meetings where this has been discussed and spoken, you know, ad nauseum on the subject. The city attorney has informed council that they cannot outright ban existing properties because they are, it's a legal use. It's a legal business in the state of Washington. The idea, and I advocate on the side of reasonable regulation, and we want properties that are safe, that are hospitable. This is an industry that tends to regulate itself because everybody who stays in a property, a short-term rental, an STR, short-term rental, which encompasses VRBO or Airbnb or TripAdvisor or HomeAway, anybody who stays in one of those places has the opportunity to rate the property and to be rated as a client, as somebody who stayed there. So it's a very transparent kind of transaction. Alexa made a point early on in this conversation, way back at some of the planning meetings, to say that, you know, it's important, and she is on hand with her properties to make sure that there is always somebody available if there's something going wrong. If we have noise ordinance, we have parking, all these things, if we're following the rules, we tend to find that these properties will regulate themselves. People who are trying to make a quick buck, who are buying up properties in Walla Walla with the intention of letting them be cash cows, are going to find very quickly that it's a lot of work, and they need to be maintained, and they have to be nice. And it isn't just the same thing as, you know, it's a different industry. And we have found throughout the country, in fact throughout the world, that these things tend to work themselves out. The bad players are going to drop out because they're not going to get any business. And I think it's a new world, and this is part of it, and that's scary. And it's going to have to be handled gently. But I do encourage everybody to take a deep breath and let's approach it with some calm and see what happens.
Right. In case you don't know, the city council did pass ordinances on what they call level 1 short-term vacation rentals, and that's mostly the Airbnb business model, where you live in the home and for the majority of the year. And so the ordinances are that you have to pay a business license, you have to collect the tax if you have folks staying there less than 30 days, and you do this, I think, if you rent a room in your home at least 3 times. So if you do it on rental number 4, then you need to start collecting the tax, pay the business license fee, and have your home inspected for safety. Okay, so they're trying to level the playing field, but that's for folks who live in the home. The one that's coming up is for folks who have investment properties. They don't live in the house, and they're using it as an income stream. And so personally, I believe a local economy needs to have a balance of resources to handle this. I think it would be detrimental to outright ban them. But it is definitely something that if you have property and you have an opinion on this, you should probably turn out for that meeting on November 1st to at least have one final say before a vote is taken. All right. One of the things that was brought up and I want to change the subject just a little bit. Bonnie mentioned the SBDC. Anybody here ever used the services that Joe provides out at the airport, the Small Business Development Center? Raise your hand if you've used those services. Okay. Okay, got somebody who has. Very good. The Small Business Development Center is a critical component to business growth and development in a community. I was very active with the SBDC back in Virginia. The counselors there helped me launch my own consulting business by getting my forms filed correctly, helping me get my license, making sure that I got started the right way. They have advice and counseling. They help you develop your business plans and so on. So we're very lucky to have one here. I'm very excited about the opportunity to become the new fiscal agent. So Joe's office will be moving into the chamber office in downtown, so he'll no longer be out at the airport. And his move-in day will be December 11th with the official grand opening, if you will, early January. So I would encourage folks to schedule an appointment and use those services with the Small Business Development Center. I know folks need to leave. Are there any additional questions? It's 1:03.
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
As a business owner, I pay B&O taxes every month, and I understand there's a way for me to support our downtown foundation. Can Bonnie explain that to the other business owners?
Well, it would be very lengthy, and I know that we're short on time, but I would be happy to give you a call. And it is something on our new website that we are trying to explain better. And because it's coming up, I will be reaching out to people. So yes, there is that opportunity. There is a cap on it, and it, like I say, it is very lengthy to go into and detailed. But I will give you a call.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your attendance today. We look forward to seeing you at the next quarterly luncheon.